Inasmuch as one doesn't have to be a good artist to be a successful 3D animator, there's no debate that having a foundation built on traditional art concepts and principles is certainly of value. If you're truly serious about the field of 3D animation, whether approaching it as a hobby or career, you really ought to consider the value of getting a little traditional art training under your belt. Even if you never excel at being able to draw, picking up a few techniques that'll help with your design and composition will pay big dividends as you strive to become a better 3D artist. Traditional art training teaches essential concepts and ideas that carry over to any art form, whether drawing by hand, taking pictures with a camera, or pounding something out on the computer. For example, formally trained artists realize the importance of a well-designed image having a center of interest. They understand that proper staging of a scene can make it much easier for their audience to quickly identify the most important elements within a shot. You never want a viewer to simply look where they want to look. No, you want them to be looking where you want them to look. And there's a trick to making that happen, like the proper use of color and light. Formal art training would also give you a better sense of the importance of balance within a scene. You want to make sure that you're laying things out so that no one part of the scene feels any heavier or weighed down than any other area. In addition to balance, you also want to make sure that your scenes aren't too symmetrical. In other words, it's important to mix things up as far as size and proportion. Doing so just makes things look a little more realistic and believable, as will adding a little overlap in your scene. An understanding of proper composition stresses the importance of never having all your objects lined up in a pretty row. It's the overlap that you build into a scene that goes a long ways in providing a little extra depth and three-dimensionality in your work. A little traditional art training would also work wonders to improve your color and shadow, two of the very most important elements in creating realistic work. Traditionally trained artists realize that certain color combinations work better together, for example, whereas other colors that are combined together sometimes clash to the point of making an audience feel uneasy or a little on edge. Think about that. Simply by the way that colors are blended or combined together can determine how an audience feels about your work. It's amazing how something as simple as a color or two can affect their perception and their emotional response. So that's a few things to consider when making the effort to building the best 3D scene possible, one that has interest and intrigue. And don't think it stops there with only a traditional art class or reading a book or two on art in general. You might also want to consider maybe some formal training in photography or film appreciation. There's a lot to know in using the proper camera angle and lens length as you strive to make the most out of the scenes you've created. As I'll be mentioning in our chapter on cameras, a camera, if used correctly, can be one of your primary assets in creating a certain mood or feel for a story. And one last thing I'd like to mention about studying up. I might have left it for last, but this may be the very most important advice I can give you. Whether you do it in a school classroom or on your own, don't watch, but study the way things move, the way objects react and interact with other things. What's the difference, for an example, between the way a beach ball bounces and the way a bowling ball bounces, or a balloon, or a water balloon? They're all round. You make each of them the same way on the computer using a sphere. But each reacts to coming into contact with something else quite differently, right? It's going to be your ability to accurately show that kind of stuff that's going to be your ticket to making a ton of money and retiring while you're still young. So study up. If you're truly serious about becoming the best 3D animator possible, having a rock-solid foundation in traditional art concepts and principles will only make you better.